Hey/B, I have some creepy OC for you to close out your summer. It's kinda TLDR, but if you can get off your ADD high horse for 10 minutes or so that it takes for me to share this, then I think you'll be pleased. Then again, it is summer, so I'll probably just get led right the hell out of here. I took these pictures earlier today, so there isn't a timestamp. However, to prove I'm not trolling, here's the exact location of where these pictures were taken. Pic related. If you want to call me a liar, then that's fine, but at least have the balls to go there and prove it yourself. I'll commence creepy dumping on the next post. 3 days ago, my last living grandparent, my mother's father, passed away at the age of 89. He was a World War II vet, and my mom tells me after returning home from the Navy he was never quite the same. In fact, he was pretty paranoid about nearly everything. I was never really allowed to stay at his house. In 1965, his wife died suddenly, with no real explanation. My mother tells me that my grandfather became extremely fearful of nuclear war with the communists, and that he started to dig a bomb shelter out of the rock and limestone on his land. I had never saw the bomb shelter until today, when the family was going through my grandfather's belongings. Pic related, it's the entrance. I had only ever asked my grandfather about the hand-dug cave one time in my life, which was when I was about 16 or so when we got together for Christmas. He didn't really seem to want to talk about it. He just told me not to ever go in there. It's just a damned blank. What the word in the blank was, I've never been able to figure out. No amount of Googling helped me determine what he said. All I knew was it sounded like air. The way he said it was creepy enough that I never asked about it again. This picture is a view back towards the door, after you go down some steps. I hadn't even thought about the shelter since then until today, when my mother asked me to go check it out and see if I could find anything worth putting in an estate sale. To be honest, I was pretty excited. I thought maybe I'd find old gas masks, non-perishable food items from the 60s, maybe even some forms of entertainment he had planned to use to keep the family busy in the event of an attack. This picture is the first hallway, which curves off to the right at the end. The first thing I found was this rudimentary toilet. Of course, time hadn't been kind to it, so there wasn't much left. It had obviously been in disrepair for years. I just snapped a picture of it and kept going. Although I did have to admire the work that had gone into chipping away at the rock, one heave at a time. But further down the hallway, I came to nothing more than a bunch of old rusted garbage on the floor. I instantly felt my heart sink, because I had such high hopes for what this exploration would yield. It was beginning to look like my grandfather had just given up at some point on his dream of crafting a shelter. Pic related, it's the garbage. But you'll notice that in the previous picture the hallway curves off to the left. I was expecting to hit a flat wall of rock, but instead I found a huge iron door that was padlocked shut. Fortunately for me, it had become rusted to all hell, so I was actually able to pick up a decent-sized rock off the floor and hit the padlock until it busted the entire loop that it went through. Opening the door was another story, though. It was extremely heavy and had become rusted shut over the years. I found a shovel back in the garbage heap and used all my strength to force it open with a lever action. Pic related, it's the view after I got the darn thing open. The only thing back here was a hallway that did abruptly end where he had stopped digging, but there was a doorway off to the right. I went through the doorway and inside a room that looked more like a cavern than a bomb shelter. I noticed this carving in the stone. At first I thought, oh no big deal, maybe he just came back here to pray or something, but that's when I started to notice that there were more carvings. Suddenly I see this face carved into the rock. There were faces everywhere. Seriously, it was as though there were a bunch of ghostly faces staring at you in that room. Pic related. And here's another example. I noticed that while the previous one appeared to be a soft female face, this one was an angry male face, and there were really quite a few of them. I don't know, probably 6 or 7. They were all carved into the walls as though they were facing the carving of a cross, worshipping it or something. I happened to look down at the ground below the skull carving, and there sitting in a bunch of concrete rubble was a mother flippin' bone. And don't get me wrong, I'm not some Nancy. This was no deer bone. This was clearly a human bone. My heart was pounding out of my chest. As I started to look more closely, I saw more bones coming out of the concrete, as though human remains had been dumped in a batch of quick dry cement. Then I could have sworn I heard a quiet laugh from the corner of the room, and I bolted. I ran out of that room like the devil was chasing me. I ran all the way out of the shelter, all the way back to the house. What the flip, did the post with the bone just get deleted, or is /B acting up again? These pics have no exif. What the hell, did a mod just delete my last post? Anyway, continued. And then I saw this one. Unlike every single carving in the room, which were faces, this one was clearly meant to be a skull. It seemed so out of place, since I felt the rest of the room had religious connotations to it. Why was there a skull? Well, I found out soon enough. Here they post a Wikipedia page on ossuaries. An ossuary is a chest-building well or site made to serve as a final resting place for human skeletal remains. I wouldn't pronounce it as ossuaire, but it could possibly be pronounced something like that in some accents or dialects of English. Okay, that took a long time to type out, and someone just knocked at the door. Keep this thread bumped. OP never comes back, and the thread mysteriously 404s 1 second after I post in it.